Mike Moore Media, the first place to hear Rockingham County news and information.
Our program is sponsored by Carpino Investments. On our media line, Jeff Garstka, Economic Development Director for the City of Reidsville. Jeff, always good to have you on the program. And we're always talking about good things that are happening, and that's true all the time, it seems. But today you're going to tackle some of the challenges that you face out there, understand?
Yeah, hey, Mike. I thought we'd do something a little different. As you said, we always love talking about good news, and I didn't want to do a show that was presenting anything negative by any means, but, amidst all the good that we have going on, there's always challenges, and I thought we could just kind of talk through some of that stuff, and also, in the meantime, address, how we're addressing some of these challenges.
Sure, okay. Well, I know one thing that's always true in all municipalities, and that's a lack of vacant industrial buildings. So how's that affecting you?
Yeah, that's a big one for us, and a lot of people say that, as a result of our growth, when Miller Coors shut down in Eden, we lost the Ball aluminum can facility, and that property was acquired by Albod for their expansion, very quickly. We lost the plastics manufacturer, and another one moved right in. We've had some other, the old Reidsville grocery building out on Freeway Drive has been absorbed by a local company. So, yes, it's a good problem to have, as people would like to say, but, the word problem is still in that sentence. And so when we get inquiries from our partners at the state level, and, when the county's getting inquiries and they're passing along to us and we're working together, if I get companies, coming to me directly saying, hey, I'm looking for X number of square feet of industrial space, I don't have a really good answer right now because we don't have a lot of buildings. And so most companies, I'd say probably 80% of the leads we get are folks looking for existing buildings. They don't want to build a new building. It's expensive. They don't have time. They just want to move right in and start doing their thing. And, if we don't have that type of product, we're kind of behind the eight ball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the need for spec buildings always there.
That is always there, and it's a risky proposition. I mean, there's always the story of some city somewhere that had a spec building built that sat vacant for 10 years, and the county looked really bad for doing it, and all those kind of things. But I feel like if we had some speculative development going on, we would be successful with it. And we've talked to several developers who do speculative industrial space, and they're interested in Reidsville. Part of our challenge is, when they go to larger markets like Winston-Salem, or even, in the Burlington area where there's so much growth of logistics distribution companies, it's easy for them to take the risk, put up a building, and feel comfortable that within 12 months or 6 months or whatever it is, that they'll fill the building up with a tenant. And, looking at Reidsville, they don't know the market as well. It's a little bit smaller. The risk is a little higher, and so they want the city or the county or whomever to absorb some of that risk. And that might mean, after 2 years, we guarantee the lease on the building for, in perpetuity until something happens. And that's just, I'm not sure that's a risk that our elected officials are willing to take with taxpayer dollars at the moment. But as we continue to grow, the risk we're having to talk about is getting less. I've talked to a developer a couple of weeks ago who said, you may not have to, take all that risk. Why don't you go back out and test the market again and see who's willing to participate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, that's encouraging. Let's talk about vacant downtown properties. Where are we in that, Jeff?
Our downtown is approximately 75 to 80% occupied as far as active businesses, and that shocks a lot of people because you do see vacant buildings. Although you go up and down Scale Street, there aren't too many storefronts that don't have an active business in it, and that's really great. That's a big number for a small town, or for any town really, to have a 80% occupancy rate. Our challenge is, again, just like the industrial side, the 20% that's not occupied also isn't actively being marketed by the owner. So it's not for rent. It's not for sale, or at least not publicly. There's no sign in the window. There's no realtor involved. We don't know about it. Some of them are owned by some of the building owners don't live in Reedsville. They live somewhere else in another state. They don't really. It's not high on their priority list to try and sell the building. Maybe in some cases they even inherited it from a previous family member. They're just not thinking about it. So we're making a push this year through the Downtown Corporation to try and contact some of these building owners and just get them engaged and say, look, we're getting calls every week for people wanting to, looking for space downtown. I mean, I had I had 2 or 3 calls last week alone that said, hey, I want to move my business, or I'm trying to start a business. And just like the industrial side, I'm like, I have 1 or 2 buildings that I'm aware of that you could look at. And other than that, there's just not much on the market right now. So we're getting more calls than we have space.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And this is not unique to Reedsville. It's everywhere, isn't it?
It is. No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's, I guess it's the old first world problem situation, but no, it's not unique. The big cities are running out of space. It's a function of a result of of a good economy. Other than what we're obviously with the pandemic, we have some economic challenges, but businesses are still growing and thriving, and so that's what happens when you have a good economy and growth.
Yeah. Well, we're still in COVID days for some time to come. How's that affecting the budget? We haven't talked about that recently.
We're pretty steady for this year. We had our city council retreat a couple weeks ago, and Chris Phillips reported that this year we're actually going to have a really good financial year. And a lot of that, of course, is, it's kind of there's some lag time between with the numbers you're looking at today versus when the revenue came through or when you expected to come through with tax collections and things like that. But going into next year, and we were very conservative this year with the budget. We were asked to take, about a 3 to 5% cut across the board going into this current fiscal year, which we're halfway through, a little more than halfway through. So we were very conservative, and for the revenues to still be up a little bit, that helps us out going into the next year, where we are going to face some challenges. When the Commonwealth plant shut down, they still had their equipment listed on the tax rolls. We're still collecting on that. If that equipment finally becomes decommissioned, that's a big loss of water and sewer revenue from some of the companies like that. But we have some challenges going into it next year, and I think COVID hasn't destroyed us by any means, but it does it trickles down for sure. When some of these small businesses struggle, they close. I mean, you just take a business like the Celtic Fringe. They have been closed for months, and part of it is they're doing some renovation work, which is really cool. They're going to reopen, but that's a lot of sales tax revenue coming into our community. It's a popular restaurant, and if they're not up and running, then we're losing money on that. And some of our industries have had some slowdowns and some layoffs and things like that. And so when they're not making product, it's not bringing in revenue into the community.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it trickles down more than people realize. Let's get an update on workforce development and employee recruitment. That's always a challenge, I guess.
Yeah, and it's another one that's not unique to Reedsville or Rockingham County. I mean, it's almost a global problem, really, yeah, with finding and attracting and retaining talent. There's a lot of smart, hardworking people out there, and the demand for them is very high across the board. It's another, again, it's just like the industrial building space. It's another result of our success when you have close to 2,000 new jobs announced in the last 5 years. That's a lot of people to put to work, and people are having to, companies are having to reach further and wider to find that number. We're not sitting in a market of 1 million people here. It's a relatively small labor shed draw area, so it's a challenge filling some of these positions, and we still have an issue with people wanting to work. You have ones that show up the first day for training and then never come back. And these are good jobs. These are good jobs with good companies that are growing, trying to offer people a career. And some of them just don't, for whatever reason, don't want to take advantage of that opportunity. So, we work with the community college, we work with the local workforce boards, partners at the county and with our industries to do job fairs and, just try to help them find the people they need. When a company's trying to hire 100 new people, it kind of makes me nervous because a lot of times they're having a hard time finding, 5, let alone the next 100.
Mm-hmm, sure. We hear so much about and there and in Eden and in other places about these big incentive packages that are offered to get large companies to come into the area. Where are we with grants and incentives for the small business person?
That has always been a challenge for me in my entire career of finding ways to financially assist some of the smaller businesses that are trying to grow by 2 people, 5 people, and sometimes it's not even about hiring people. It's just about them growing their business, and they need help. They can go to their bank and try to borrow some money, and a lot of times it's cost prohibitive. So they come to us and they're like, "Hey, how can you help us?" And we just don't have the tools to have the kind of grants and incentive money that aren't for big impact projects. And that's just the nature of economic development. That's just the way the system's created, and it's not fair, but it just is the way it is. We've got a couple small businesses that have approached us in the last couple months that, hey, I'm getting ready to invest, $1 million in my company. It's a small business, a small retail business.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to help me? And it's really hard to find ways to give them some meaningful assistance through any grants or incentives. Everybody's willing to jump on board when you have the Farmina Pet Foods of the world coming to build a big facility and hire 130 people. That's a no-brainer. We can put together a package for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to find ways creatively across the board to help some of these smaller industries grow, because for them that's their livelihood. They've run a good business for 20 years, and now they finally have an opportunity to expand their business a little bit, and they just need some help. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of traditional help out there.
Yeah. Well, we have
yet we all talk about how important small businesses are to our economy. It's, everybody says it's the heartbeat of your economy.
That's right. Yeah.
You can't help them.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
We hear about those facade grants sometimes. That's about it seems. Yeah.
And we're out of money. I mean, we're out of money on that program until 2022.
Really? Wow.
Which again, another good problem to have. But
mm-hmm.
The next one that comes along and says, "Hey, I want to renovate a downtown building for my new business," I can't. Sorry, I can't help you fund it right now.
Yeah. Well, we have about 45 seconds remaining, Jeff. Give us some encouraging words, perhaps, if you can, as we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that wasn't doom and gloom.
No, it's just reality.
It is reality.
Yeah.
It is. And I hope people hear it. And I'm always open to ideas, and people want to jump in and help with ideas and some sweat equity in the deal. But, things are still looking up. I mean, we expect this year overall from, recruitment activity seems to be pretty steady. Always on the heels of a presidential election, things kind of slow down a little bit. They slow down during the election cycle as people are trying to, I know if candidate A wins, what the economy is generally going to look like. If candidate B wins, same thing, kind of hedging their bets a little bit on investing. And then after the fact, okay, so candidate B is in office now. Let's wait a couple months and see what the economic policy really is. So I would expect sometime probably in the spring, and of course as vaccines start rolling out more, spring and summer of this year, I really think that we're gonna get back to a high level of activity and hopefully a good economy that we can roll with.
Okay, that is encouraging indeed. Jeff, thank you for your time. Thank you for your hard work for Reidsville. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good day. Stay safe out there.
Okay, you the same. Jeff Garstka with us on this edition of Rise Up Reidsville. He is Economic Development Director for the city of Reidsville. Our program is sponsored by Carpino Investments, leader of community redevelopment in the Carolina Piedmont region. They're involved in a big project in Reidsville at the Depot District, and in Uptown Eden as well, carpinoinvestments.com. And please go to this website for more information, rocketinreidsville.com.